And once again, we are live. This is episode number 19 of Empire State of Baseball on this Monday, August the 8th, 2022, airing exclusively on Twitch and powered by StreamYard. Boys. Welcome back to the show. It's another Monday. It is my favorite part of my Monday because Mondays normally suck for me. But today we have a special edition of episode number 19 because Joe is not here today. Celebrate everybody, especially Thomas. He's so happy that Joe's not here. Thomas, you gonna miss your boy tonight?
Listen, I'm not going to miss Junior. I think the fans will, though. It's going to be probably a 35-minute episode because we don't have to hear Joe talk for seemingly just endless run-on sentences.
And listen, we could have went with an empty seat. We could have just ran the three of us, and Corey and Tom and I would have held it down probably fine. But I decided to reach internally for actually one of our newest members of the ESB family, who introduced his segment, the Fantasy Hot Corner, has the second edition coming on tonight in just a little bit. Jonathan Hernandez joins us once again on the show. I say once again, but joins us for the first time on the show. What's up, John? How you doing, man?
First time live. What's going on, guys? Happy to be here. I will be taking Joe's spot the best that I can. I don't know if I can do it as well, but I'll try.
I will say it'll be very, very hard to beat the volume level. I could tell you that.
God, Corey, we get to hear your voice this week. It's so exciting.
I know.
I don't think I have the volume of Joe, but I definitely have the opinions. So,
all right. So John's already off to a blazing start as is. So let's get into it. Obviously, last Monday we were hyping up the trade deadline because the deadline was Tuesday, last Tuesday, 6:00 p.m. We had a lot of deals that had happened up until the point we ended last week's broadcast. A couple of big Yankee deals, some Met pieces, but there were some big trades that did fall through after we went off the air. The Frankie Montas deal for the Yankees being the biggest one. Joey Gallo getting traded to the Dodgers, which obviously something we've talked about for a while now, where Joey Gallo would end up. And Tom, I think that was just inevitable. Gallo was going to end up with a new home come August the 2nd, and that's what
Listen,
happened.
I don't want to hear it from you because I proposed a Joey Gallo trade to an NL West team, and I was told that was ridiculous. And Joey Gallo should be fired into the sun, and he was worthless, and he couldn't bring anything back. Now, did we get the greatest return for Joey Gallo? No, but we got the Dodgers, 15th best prospect according to MLB.com, which is so much more than anyone on this show thought he would get. I'm telling you, he's been horrible, but he had value. Teams gonna take a flyer on him, and good for Joey. Hope he's able to catch back on in LA. So good luck, Joey.
John, do you think the Dodgers are crazy for taking a chance on Gallo?
I definitely got to say, listen, for as much nonsense as Cashman gets, Cashman is a wizard. I don't know how he gets Gallo is somebody I would have said had absolutely no value going into the trade deadline. And what does he do? He turns into the Dodgers 15th best prospect. I mean, that's a hell of a return for a guy that you would have said probably would have been DFA'd if it got past the trade deadline. So I don't know how he does it, but he always finds a way to get something out of nothing. So,
and as Yankee fans, we heralded it. We were like, "Let's go!" He has an A. He has an A grade ending this trade deadline. And what does he do, Corey Favs? He trades from a position of need, sending Jordan Montgomery to St. Louis.
That one just boggled my mind when I saw that trade. Like before that trade, I was like, you know what? This is an A trade deadline for the Yankees. They addressed a lot of positions, got Gallo off the team, got a decent prospect back in return. I'm like, all right, not bad. Having a good deadline. And then you trade your starting pitching depth, and starting pitching is one of the positions right now for the New York Yankees that has taken a big step back from the first half of the season. Why they did that trade, I don't know. There are a lot of rumors that maybe the Yankees did have a deal in place for Lopez from the Marlins that probably fell through right before the deadline. Would that make sense then? I guess, but don't pull the trigger until it's dry in ink. It's all hypothetical at that point. now you made yourself weaker at a position that's been starting to take a few hits over the last few weeks. So we'll see if that hurts them in the long run.
And as much of a wizard as he is, Cashman is also good for one of those every now and then. To prematurely trade Montgomery, which is a position of need, you just got Montez, right? Why are you turning that immediately and going around and saying, okay, yeah, maybe, listen, there was rumors that they had Lopez lined up from the Marlins. Okay. Until that's done, like Corey said, you cannot go trading your depth. You cannot. I know people aren't the biggest fan of Montgomery, but Montgomery's a solid 3 through 5 guy in the back end of the rotation, a guy that's always going out there. He's never really hurt. It's tough to try to sell that, and then to say you got Bader in return, who probably won't see the field again until maybe the end of the season. It's not something that the Yankee fans should be exactly happy with because of the fact that, well, now you have a hole in the lineup in the rotation that you got to try to fill.
Yeah, listen, I mean, they had something else in mind that did fall through. And I mean, none of us have been GMs before, so I imagine there is some level of you have to get this one trade moving to get the other one off, as well. Clearly, it didn't work in this case, and it looked bad over the weekend because of it. A lot of Yankee fans made the point that Montgomery is someone, although he is a solid 3, 4, 5 guy in your rotation. He was someone that you weren't going to pitch in the postseason. He was not going to get the ball in a postseason game. Yankees see Bader as a upgrade to the outfield, as a very good defender and another solid hitter. So I think that was more of a move for the Yankees in October as opposed to a move now, although they still have to finish some of the deal to get themselves in good position for October.
The thing I hate about that is I don't think I was going to rule Monty out fully out of a postseason spot. You don't know what Luis Severino is going to give you by the time he comes back. Domingo Germán, obviously, Tom is a huge Domingo Germán fan, might not even be on the Major League roster when some of these guys come back off the IL. Jameson Taillon has been one of the worst pitchers in the rotation over the last few months. I don't think it would have ruled out a rotation spot for Monty unless they went out and got another guy like Corey.
I mean, again, they definitely were. Nestor's going to go again ahead of him in a postseason start. Mm-hmm. And probably, assuming Severino's back and healthy, I mean, he obviously is too. So that really puts Monty. It is a tall task. Severino he's been throwing. They only 60-dayed him just to do some roster manipulation. That's a lot of stuff that does annoy me with the Yankees. They do a lot of this dumb roster moves, like the situation of sending Marinaccio down and Clark Schmidt down because you can't send down Litke because the options. And I know that's how it works. It's just so frustrating to see good players just being sent down for that reason.
I agree. Absolutely.
I think that the other thing too is you're saying that you can't rule out Montgomery wouldn't get a start, but who's getting that third start? And I hate the notion of that always comes up of, you really only need 2 starters in the playoffs. That's really not the case.
No, not at all.
Today's day and age, you really need 3 or 4 starters that get you out there and are going out there every day in the playoffs, because unless you get a rain out, Scherzer's, you can go Scherzer, DeGrom, and then Bassett, or in the Yankee situation, you're going Cole, Nestor. Who's going third? And then if you need a 4th starter,
Montes is going second.
What's that?
Montes is going.
Oh, well, second. Yeah, right. Montez
Nestor,
now. Right.
And then assuming I think in the Yankees' plan, if they have it written down, is Cole goes game 1, Montes goes game 2, Severino goes 3, and then depending on the situation, it's probably Nestor for game 4, or you're bringing Cole back for game 4. That's assuming the Yankees what their plan is. And I know, Montes has been hurt this year. Severino's been hurt, but I think you have to kind of figure out what gives us the best chance to actually win the World Series. And they believe that this is it. It is frustrating because the Yankee starting pitching has not been great as of late, Montgomery being one of them. Then he goes out and throws 5 innings, no runs.
It really is the ultimate irony where the Yankees were so linked to Castillo. He shuts them down in the Bronx. Monty goes 5, no run ball. And then the guy they acquired gives up 6 runs to St. Louis on Sunday. So, that is baseball, Susan. Now, let's turn over to the Mets side. And Corey, what letter grade are you giving Epler, Cohen, and crew for this trade deadline with all the depth pieces that they acquired?
Well, I'll tell you what, it was an interesting deadline for the Mets, and they were rumored to be in a lot of big trades also. There was talk for the last week leading up to the deadline of getting a Contreras, of getting a David Robertson. J.D. Martinez at one point almost felt like a lock. It based on all the beat writers reporting the day or two prior to the deadline, it sounded like JD Martinez was the prime target, maybe even more so than Contreras. And what ends up happening? They don't make any blockbusters whatsoever, but they did make a lot of depth picks. So the guys the Mets bringing in, Daniel Vogelback, who's been off to a phenomenal start for this team. Darren Ruff, that trade kind of confused me a little bit. I thought they gave up way too much for Darren Ruff. I mean, granted, J.D. Davis not having the best of seasons. Spizzucki is not doing good at all in his very brief time in the majors, and a couple of lower-level prospects. But I thought that was a lot for the older Darren Ruff. But he did have a couple of good games in what he's played so far with the Mets, and he kills lefty pitching, which is what the Mets really do need. And then you bring in Tyler Naquin. You're getting a legitimate major league player now as your platoon left fielder, replacing Travis Janikowski on the roster, who, face it, he's just a pinch runner, pinch defender, and he has no value whatsoever at the plate. Tyler Naquin has legitimate pop for a backup outfielder, and he's going to be a platoon player for this Mets team. A lot of great hits from him. And then also you're bringing in Michael Givens. Has not looked good, but granted, it's just been 2 outings so far with the Mets bullpen. He did have like a sub-3 ERA. I think it was like 2.7 at the time they made the acquisition. Has pitched with Buck Showalter in the past from way back when in his Baltimore Oriole days, which we do have a bird watch coming up a little later as well. Unfortunately, Joe's not here.
Oh, yes.
Yep. But we'll see what happens. I thought overall with this Mets team, I think the 2 things they really needed to address, one was bringing in a legitimate righty bat. You didn't really do that. Also, improving the bullpen. You brought in Michael Givens, but you also gave up a young, promising reliever in Holderman who came out of nowhere and was doing really well in the time he was in the majors. So I think right now, as much as I love Vogelback and Ruff and Givens, also decent additions, I'm going to go with a C- on this team. I thought they gave up, again, Vogelback, as good as he's been, I don't like giving up Holderman for him. They probably could have worked another deal because you made a weak position weaker by getting rid of Holderman. I thought they overpaid for Ruff, although I do think Ruff brings value to the team. Naquin I love. Givens was fine as well. I have no issues with those 2 acquisitions. So, granted, I like what the Mets got back. I don't like what they gave up to get some of these guys, which is why I'm going C-. Not a failure. It was still a decent deadline. These guys have been producing, but it's not they didn't knock it out of the park.
You know, I kind of like wonder that the Mets in this new Cohen era have clearly showed the ability to sign players, and you know, Cohen puts his wallet on the table, and he you know, goes out and acquires guys through free agency very well, as good as anyone has done in recent time. But it doesn't seem like they've been able to really pull off some of these big trading deadline moves in the past couple of years. Is that something that concerns you guys going forward?
I think absolutely not. It doesn't concern me, and the reason why it doesn't concern me is because when Cohen came in, the one thing he said he was putting emphasis on was development and long-term success. The problem with the Mets organization is this. The problem with the trading is not a Cohen problem. This is years of bad drafting and bad, international signings and things like that are now costing them in the immediate. But yet at the same time, they're very top heavy in their prospects. Their farm system is not as deep as, say, the Dodgers or the Yankees, who, as much as, yes, they're a top 30 prospect for the Mets, that top 30 prospect might not be a top 10 in another organization. And on the Mets, they're 4. You know, I'm just giving a hypothetical. It's definitely something that is not a reflection on this regime since Cohen took over. He's just kind of they're in a situation where they can't move anything because their value of the players outside of the top 5 in Beatty, Alvarez, Vientos, Mauricio, Alex Ramirez is up and comer that's really getting a lot of attention that they don't really want to give up. And I understand where they're coming from with that because look at the Dodgers. I always take what Cohen said when he came in. He said, I want to be Dodgers East. What makes the Dodgers so great? Deep farm system and deep pockets. The Mets have deep pockets. They don't have a deep farm system.
Not yet.
They have a top-heavy farm system. So that's why they're holding on. And especially after last year, after the whole bias trade where they kind of got fleeced on the PCA Pete Crow Armstrong going over there for Baez, and then Baez not really working out here.
Yeah.
I understand the reservation to not give up the top prospects because you call a team like the Cubs are going to say, well, we want, Vientos for Contreras. And it's like, that's not, why should we do that? The Royals just got 3 prospects from the Yankees that were 19, 21 and something for a rental. Why are we paying? And I get that Contreras is better than Benintendi, but at the same time, why do we have to give up our top 5? Because that's the only thing that's of value to these teams. And
I also think, you alluded to it, but Benintendi, if you look at like outfield rankings, he's probably a top 40 outfielder in Major League Baseball. Wilson Contreras is a top 3 catcher
at a weak position.
Yeah, exactly. He's a very good player, and he's in a weak position. I just think I know I had mentioned like months ago, honestly, that I think both Yankees and the Mets should be ready to go all in for this trade deadline. I do feel like the Mets they made some good smaller moves, as Corey highlighted. I think they could have went more all in. They did get the DeGrom back.
No, I agree with you on that. I was on the fence of I gave it a C. I definitely think they should have just went all in because of the fact that they are an older team.
I think an impact reliever really I think could have really given them a good grade. And we had joked about the Hader moving in, and Hader, granted, it was a kind of a unique package that required to get him, but just imagine if the Mets would have been like, what? Let's go all in. Let's get Hader. Let's pair him with Diaz and basically say games are 7 innings long. Have fun.
Yep. And I would have loved Daniel Robertson too, because that gives you a guy who's been having a phenomenal year and has pitched in New York in big games as well. So he knows the market too. I would have loved Robertson. They also desperately needed, in my opinion, a left-handed reliever because the only one on the roster right now is Joely Rodriguez. Granted, he had a great outing last night. He gave them, I think, 2 1/3 innings versus the Braves. But you look at his numbers this year. I mean, his ERA, I think, just hit 7. I mean, it is not good. He's had some.
The only thing he gave me last year was the runs.
Yeah. Yep. I know. Yep. No, I would have loved Andrew Chafin. I thought he would have been the perfect type of pickup. A guy who's under contract at a reasonable number for next year, too, because the Mets have a ton of free agent pitchers this year, both in the rotation and the bullpen, including possible Cy Young candidate. I can't believe I'm saying this, Edwin Diaz. But we'll see what happens. I think Peterson probably takes that role in the bullpen. He was good at it in the very beginning of the year. Granted, he did not do good in it, blowing the league against the Yankees in just 5 pitches. But I did see in the chat, if you pull up the S Ballbuster 45 again, they are going to use McGill. They are going to use Peterson. Trevor Williams has looked very good in the pen. So they have options. In my opinion, they're not high leverage. I hope McGill becomes a high leverage guy because he's got legitimate stuff. But that's taking a what-if scenario into a team that's going to be a 100-plus win playoff team. I want some more sure things when I'm going against the Dodgers.
We're also talking what if. If we're talking what if scenarios, prospects are also big what if scenarios.
Also true. Also very true.
So there's no guarantee that these guys are going to pan out.
Absolutely, but again, it comes down to the cost of. It comes down to the cost of the trade, and I'm just playing the devil's advocate because I personally think they should have gotten a lefty. I was driving train for either JD Martinez or Contreras. Get one of them. I think that's a bad job, especially because I look at the lineup still and I'm like, against a good lefty. I don't know if they. I still don't know if they have it against a good.
They're very good team, but this is the time to make very very good teams, or they're a great team to really just That's my only, I guess, like thought and look at it is they for past couple of years have not. I don't think have done great trading wise. Although free agent spending,
again, I think it really comes down to the fact that they were handed a poor farm system. They were handed a poor farm system upon arrival, and they're trying to build it up. But that doesn't happen in what's it been, a year and a half, almost 2 years. So it doesn't happen overnight. You're seeing it with the top prospects that they already had: Alvarez, Beatty, Maurizio, the ones that come to mind immediately. Those guys have been here, but to build it up completely, Brody Van Wagenen did a rough job of trading a lot of prospects away.
Oh yeah,
that even if they weren't great prospects, Brody was giving away 4 or 5 prospects at a time for guys that really weren't working out that well. So, I mean, look at Justin Dunn. He's pitching right now against the Mets. It's a guy that gave up granted, no one's complaining about Diaz these days, but it was still a lot to give up at the time. So you're going to see it change, I think, in the next, year or two, that at the trade deadline and making trades and stuff, they'll become a little bit better with it.
And I think we can agree the biggest acquisition that the Mets had is back in Jacob deGrom. Two starts in, and deGrom has looked unbelievable. We're going to get into that and the Braves recap in a little bit. Before we get there, Corey, you have a lot of activity happening on Twitch right now and in our chat. What's the best way for our Twitch followers now to send their friends over to Twitch right now?
Yep. And listen, loving all the activity today, everyone. Definitely keep it up. We'll give some more shout outs throughout the show. But again, best way to follow us is download that Twitch app and subscribe to Empire State of Baseball. The link is in our Twitter bio at ESB Podcast. Again, download the Twitch app and subscribe. You will get a notification like this on your phone letting you know that we are live. So go ahead. Download that app today, subscribe, and listen to us every week. Mondays
Corey, you could have pressed that link and just been another viewer for us. Like, that would have been great.
I could have done it, but you know what? I'm giving integrity. I got to give integrity to the viewer numbers. So
I think I'm watching it from my burner account on my phone. So
all right, sweet. We got one. We got some good activity in here. Shout out to some new faces. I see Ballbuster 45, Lexi Tiggs blowing the trumpets. I love that.
Yeah.
Love that shit.
By the way, Mr. sounds like a Chooch burner account.
I would say so. Corey, what we got on dock for the Queen's Gambit?
Oh, listen, Queen's Gambit, and what a week in Queenness it was for the New York Metropolitans. The biggest series of the year, a 5-game set versus the rival Atlanta Braves. Braves, again, being one of the hottest teams in baseball in the last month and a half. And what happened in Metsland? The Mets didn't take 1, they didn't take 2, they didn't take 3, but they took 4 out of 5 versus these Braves, extending their division lead back up to 6.5. This is a division where if you go back 2 weeks ago on July 23rd, Braves cut that lead to a half game. The Braves refused to lose in the months of June and July, down to a half game. Mets bent as much as they could, and not at the expense of the Mets. It was just the Braves who were absolutely killing it. But the Braves came to town, and the Mets laid the pipe, man. 4 out of 5. What a series. Rich, you just mentioned Jacob deGrom before being the best pickup they did have. The guy was throwing a perfect game through 5 innings yesterday. In his second start in over a year. There's no doubt about it. Jacob deGrom, when healthy, is the best pitcher in baseball. Arguably in the running for the best pitcher of our lifetime when healthy over the last year and a half. With the numbers he's been putting up, he possibly would have broke Gibson's record for ERA last season if he did pitch the whole year, ended with a 1.08. The guy's been phenomenal. And right now in Metsland, this is the second toughest stretch of our schedule for the year. We had a difficult stretch back in June. I remember we had that long, it was like an 18-game West Coast trip versus the Dodgers, versus the Padres, the Giants. Brutal schedule. They did come out, I think, 1 game over 500 on that West Coast trip, which was a great stretch out of 18 games. But now we have the Braves just had 5. A little bit of an easy game tonight versus the Reds, but don't want to take them for granted. They're still a major league team. They're up 3-1 right now.
Next drop 2-3 to the Reds.
Exactly. You never know what could happen. But once we get past this Red series, we have another series with the Phillies, another series with the Braves, back at Philly, and then we have another 2-game set with the New York Yankees. So a very difficult part of the schedule coming up now for the middle of August with the Mets team. Let's see what happens here, because if they go through those games, a game or 2 over 500, do what you got to do versus Philly, take 2 of 3. Do what you have to do against Atlanta, win the series, split the series. Again, Phillies, Yankees, do what you have to do. Be around 500, a game or 2 out of 500 in that stretch. You then go into September, which is by far the easiest stretch of the Mets schedule. You have a lot of bottom feeder teams. Mets have had a very difficult schedule to date. It gets easier after August, but let's see. I'm looking forward to it. I'm pumped right now with the Mets.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Quite the crazy schedule ahead for these New York Metropolitans, as we put it up on the screen here. Quite the road trip. 8 games within their division, 2 against the Yanks. a tall task. And we talked about this a couple months ago with the Yankees in their tough stretch. And I think, these sort of weeks really help define what kind of team you have going into the latter portion of the season. For the Yankees' sake, I think it happened so early in the year where obviously there was a lot to happen, and it hasn't been great over the last month in Yankee Town. Tom and I can get into a whole rant about it. But as far as the Mets go, I mean, they are lately proving why they are as advertised. This team is truly special, as it pains me to watch these games and look what's happening on my side of the barrel. With a 9.5 game lead in the division, I shouldn't be worried, but at the same time, Tom, things aren't looking good in Yankee land. But for the Mets' sake, they are grabbing headlines.
Yeah, and right now, this Mets and Yankees team, they're back at the same record. I know these two teams were fighting for the top record in baseball earlier in the year, and the Yankees then just ran away with it and took the lead. But right now, Mets and Yankees are tied for the second best team in baseball, with the Dodgers and Astros right up there too.
I will say that if you're Braves and you're a Braves fan, how demoralizing does it have to be a little bit to know that you went on such a ridiculous stretch between June and July, and then you got it down to half a game, and Austin Riley's out here talking about how, we're coming for them, and then next thing you know, you look 2 weeks later and you're 6.5 back out again of first place after all that. Again, I'm not saying like, it just means that they're not a good team. They're a phenomenal team, but to go on that kind of a stretch and to get the lead down that low and never at any point actually take over first place or fully catch the Mets, that's got to be a little demoralizing for a team that's really had a great year on top of it, and is a great, the defending world champs. They are a great team, a great young pitching, but that's got to just kind of dig at them a little bit that they were never fully able to catch up to them, and here we are, and we're 6.5 back up of first place. I'm traumatized personally from many past Septembers of 07, 08 of years of mediocre play down the stretch. But this is a different team. This is a different team with a different type of manager and a completely different culture than what we've had in the past. And I don't really see them completely falling off a cliff the way that they have. Especially, having an extra wild card helps if it did ever, hopefully, God forbid, get to that point. But I think this team is different. This team is built differently, and we're seeing it big time. We're seeing it right now. They almost like, against the 2 games against the Yankees, and then these last 2 series against the Braves. Think about the last series too. They didn't have McNeil. They didn't have Marte. Marte was hurt. McNeil was on paternity. They won 2 out of 3, and then the Braves come to City this week. It's almost like when the big teams come in, they're showing up. The only time they really didn't show up against that was a bigger team was the Astros. But I mean, they're just a really good ball club. Even the series against the Dodgers, they showed up. They ended up splitting that. They got that series, that split at the last game with the. Not Lopez, the other guy, Medina, just showing hard at the end there, and then I guess the Padres kind of had their number a little bit, but against the good teams all year long, they've shown up, and they've showed that they belong to be considered with one of the top teams in the league as well. So
and I'll tell you what, we just mentioned, John, you just mentioned how demoralizing it is if you're a Braves fan. How about if you're a Phillies fan too? Because they just went 9 for their last 10, a 5-game win streak. Yeah, they didn't even gain a game on the Mets. They're still 9.5 back. The one thing on the Phillies side, it did help them in the wild card chase. They are right now in second place in the wild card, 3 games back from the Braves, 4 first in the wild card, about a game and a half, 2 games up on the Brewers to stay in the wild card hunt. But again, Mets, just keep doing what you're doing. You're a great team. Ignore the outside noise. We said it all along. There was too much noise with the Braves because they were so hot. They were playing at a historic pace that just was not feasible to maintain. The Mets just continue doing their thing. And if you look at the schedule in different segments, I saw a tweet yesterday. It was breaking down the season into thirds. The record for the Mets in the first third of the season and the second third of the season has almost been identical. That's what I call consistency. What the Braves did is not consistent. You can't maintain that level of play. Even on the Yankee side, you couldn't maintain that level of play. They were at a historic pace back in July.
They were on pace to win what, 120 or something crazy that?
Yeah, on pace to be the best team in baseball. But listen, there's still a long way to go. We still have all of August, all of September, a couple of games in October. But right now, on August 8th. I could not be happier. We have a tough stretch coming up. Continue to stay hot, and let's continue to build that lead.
And I will say one more thing. I know we're going to have to switch, but all this talk to you about the Phillies, I've not once ever been scared of the Phillies. I just not at all. They're close to the second place than they are to first place, and the Braves are close to the third place than they are to first place at this point. The Phillies are a non-factor to me. I'm sorry. Their defense is terrible. I'm going to sound like Joe a little bit. Their defense is terrible. Their pitching is terrible. They can hit. Okay, great. You can score 12 runs. Doesn't matter if you give up 15 of them. So if you're giving up 15 runs a game and then you score 12, congratulations, you're still in third place.
Yep.
So
yeah, I mean the Phillies are a team. They're not going for the division at this point. I think they have to realize that they're trying to get that lottery ticket, get into that wild card round, and like any team that makes the wild card and makes it then into the division series, anything can happen, right? Those bats could get red hot and they could put up 12 a game for a series and beat the Dodgers or something like that. I guess possible. I wouldn't bet it, but it's possible. So I think at this point they're just trying to get in. The Braves, they obviously were thinking, hey, let's take this division back. Took a big step back over the weekend after the Mets' great play. They have 4 more games coming up. If they win 3 or 4 of those, they kind of get themselves back in it and they can start dreaming. If they lose 3 or 4, then they'll be in that same boat. They're going to start preparing themselves for that wild card series. Then the Mets at that point will just probably be coasting just to see if they can get the best record to get home field throughout the playoffs.
Yep.
Yes, sir. The Mets are going to keep that train rolling into this tough schedule. 3 games against Cincinnati tonight. Right now, I believe the Mets had a 3-1 lead last time.
3-1. Yeah, 3-1 lead.
There we go. 3-1 lead. Mets over Reds right now, and looking to keep that going into this tough stretch. All right, so we're going to switch gears, and before we get into the Fantasy Hot Corner presented by John in the bottom right of your screen, just make sure to follow us on all our social media platforms, all 2 of them. First being Twitter, give us a follow at ESB Podcast, and individually, give Corey a follow at G Gory, Tom at T Wospil, John at J Hertz 1222. I don't know. You have multiple
double Z's.
Yeah. It's whatever. Multiple Z's, multiple twos, and myself at Rich J Rivera. I don't tweet at all. And make sure to follow us on Instagram at Empire State of Baseball, like the show you've tuned into here on Twitch. Thank you very much. We had a nice poll on Instagram today asking who is the best pitcher in New York right now. And just to give an update, we do have a tie for first place. Jacob deGrom and Edwin Diaz both with 38% of the vote each. And Serger and Cole tied for third with 12% of the vote each as well. Diaz and deGrom. And Diaz, wow. I mean, at this rate, guys, we're blowing trumpets in the chat, but the Baseball Writers Association of America might have to consider some Cy Young Award votes for this guy by season's end. But
it's crazy. No one expected that at all. But you know what? It's because the guy hasn't given up a run, I think, since like June 13th or something absurd. He strikes out over 50% of the batters he's faced. It is insane because you go back just 2 years ago and we're talking about how brutally bad that trade was when they got Diaz and Cano.
Mets fans want to run him out of town.
Yeah. I mean, everybody had him just get him out, but it's funny how baseball works sometimes. You end up looking at it now, and Kalenic can barely stay in the major leagues, and the Diaz trade looks phenomenal for the Mets. I mean, at the end of the day, I think I'll still listen. If they win the World Series and Diaz gets the last out, no one cares. Correct. But at the same time, I think the value of the trade for what they gave up to get it's still not a great trade on paper, but it won't matter if they win. So.
Now, John, speaking of trades, we had a trade deadline in our ESPN Fantasy Baseball League today, and that was a lot of fun. And John's been a fantasy baseball owner and aficionado for years, so he's the perfect man to headway to lead this segment, which he did 2 weeks ago beautifully on the show, talking on the very sparkling hot Leody Taveras for the Texas Rangers. Well, John, what do you got this week for the Fantasy Hot Corner?
So Tavares completely cooled off after I spoke into existence. So that's
I dropped him.
I dropped him as well. But for this week, let's do the player spotlight first. We're going to focus on Sandy Alcantara down in Miami. Number 1 fantasy pitcher this season, pitching to the record of a 10-4 for the lowly Marlins. That's actually not that bad. But he's got the tune of a
Incredible for that
1.88
team.
ERA and a .93 WHIP, 141 strikeouts with 3 complete games this year, which is just unheard of in today's day and age.
Unbelievable.
And 9 games this season, he's got 8 innings pitched and 2 earned runs or less. The 10th game, that was another complete game, 9 innings pitched, and he gave up 3 runs that game. He's been phenomenal all year long, and hopefully he's leading some fantasy managers to their playoffs. So,
Well,
Probably Edwin Diaz's number one rival for the Cy Young right at this point in the NL, right?
At this point, I think so. I'm a firm believer, and I don't think relievers really get the Cy Young. I know you've seen it in the past with like Eckersley and like I know Gagne when he was ridiculous was close, but I think the starters usually get it. And Alcantara just going the innings that he's going, that's going to get him votes. That just doesn't happen today. The guy goes 7 strong every single night, it seems.
Yep.
3 complete games and a lot of other 8 innings, and it's a phenomenal season he's having.
Yeah, it would have sucked to have him like before a season would start and then like trade him to another team and like get like a pick and
Yeah, sometimes you win trades and sometimes you lose them. But in my defense, I was high on him. I couldn't. I had Ray and I had Nola. I would have liked to have moved Ray, but you can't justify giving up the Cy Young of the American League and keeping a guy that had a good year last year. But it's a different. Listen, sometimes you win.
Sandy has been phenomenal. He's got at this rate, he's owned at a 99% clip. But John, is there anyone out there in Major League Baseball right now that some owners should be looking at as a possible waiver claim, maybe a trade candidate? What do you think?
So, like I said, Leody Tavares was a little bit of a flop after I spoke about him highly. But you know what? For this week's edition, we're going to go with pitcher this week. Let's go with a pitcher that has a no-hitter and an immaculate inning to his name this season. Okay. Let's go to LA and let's talk about Reed Detmers for a second. Right. After Syndergaard got traded to Phillies, Detmers was called up. Oh, I think he was called up prior to that, but he's got his last 5 starts in the majors since he got called up. He's pitched a 1.16 ERA, 38 strikeouts against some good offense in there. He's pitched against the Braves, the Astros, a couple of other good teams, good offenses. He's only owned in 37.2% of standard ESPN leagues as of now. He's been added 15% in the last week. But, hopefully he's finally reaching his potential as a middle of the road of a rotation guy. And I think you should go at him this week and ride him while he's hot.
And man, do the Angels desperately need just a guy to come up through the system and hold it down for them because it's just a poorly run organization, and some bright spots that they could homegrown would be awesome for that franchise right now. Reed Detmers has had, obviously, his flash of greatness this year with a no-hitter, sent down not too long after that, been since called up. John he's got a 1 ERA over his last few starts. So
113 in 5 starts, and he's played the Astros. He's got the Astros in there. He's got the Braves in there. I think the Rangers in there, who are pretty decent offensively, just have no pitching. So he's played against some good teams, and he's pitched really well. And, he's got a no-hitter and an immaculate inning to his name this year. So, yeah, I think you should pick him up and get him over that 50% threshold and ride him while he's hot because pitching, as we know in our league, pitching wins.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Reed Detmers, the pick for John in the fantasy hot corner. Thanks again for that. And if Reed Detmer's a free agent in your league, make sure to pick him up and send John some love on his Twitter. Give him a follow once again at J Hertz. That's with 2 Z's and with 3 2s.
3 2s.
3 2s on Twitter.
So
give him
many
a follow, give him some love. Thanks for that, John. The fantasy hot corner once again. All righty, Thomas. We did discuss the Fantasy Hot Corner a couple of weeks ago. What's the best way for our fans to view that debut segment here with ESB?
So we always want to thank our live viewers on Twitch. But if you can't catch us live and you're watching us on the replay, we thank you for that as well. You could see full episodes and also clips on our YouTube channel. To find that, you could search for Empire State of Baseball, but also find it in our Twitter bio, and then if you're on the YouTube and you're watching us there now, make sure you like, share, and subscribe.
Yes, sir. Remember, Tom, Joe's gonna clip it. If you talk nonsense, he's gonna clip it.
Yeah,
Okay.
So listen, I don't watch the clips because I imagine Joe just like edits out all the nonsense that he spews. So you're not getting any views from me. But if anyone else is watching, good for you guys.
As we're doing that, Robert Almora, former Met, just robbed Lindor of a 2-run home
I
run.
saw that.
Yeah,
that was a hell of a robbery. I got it on in the background here too. It's a hell of a play by Albert Almora.
Yeah, but we got a 3-1 game going into still in the 5th inning with 2 outs.
Too bad the guy can't hit his weight.
Yeah.
Boy, well, the Mets going through their series with the Reds that completes on Wednesday. They have an off day on Thursday, which is perfect timing for Mets fans. I'm not sure if the Yankees are playing on Thursday, but there's a huge game happening on the 11th, and that is the MLB Field of Dreams. And because I love this this time of the year, and I only say it because listen, it happened once, and it was a great game. One of the most viewed games in modern television history as terms of baseball goes. But let's kick it back. Let's go to the cornfield here at ESB, and we're gonna talk about this game, the Cubs and the Reds. So not really an attractive contest to say the least. Two of the worst teams in all of baseball, not even just in the division. So not your sexy game, but obviously you got two teams of nostalgia who've been around baseball for 100 years. They're going to be repping their old school threads that they actually showcased on Instagram today with MLB. Really cool looking stuff. But I want to just talk about the game itself. I think this was a cool event that baseball did last year. Something I think that Major League Baseball should try to do more often with specialty games. Obviously, they got the London series happening, or they were returning back in 2023. They have the game at the Little League World Series complex. So there are some cool things that they do. I would love to see more of this. But Corey, can you speak on
going to Paris? I think Yankees are going to be playing in Paris next year, right? Or in 2 years?
Yeah, they are. They're doing a something in France, some kind of series there too. They're doing.
I love that. All right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's cool when baseball does this stuff. And Corey, I just speak on this the impact of the Field of Dreams game here. And I just like, again, this is something that Major League Baseball this is something special that MLB has. They should definitely try their best to do more stuff like this. But what are your thoughts of the Field of Dreams game?
Yeah, I thought it was so cool. There was a lot of great build-up to that game last year. Watching that game live, listen, baseball outside of playoffs, I don't typically watch games that have no impact on my team whatsoever, but this was a game that drew a lot of viewers. It was just such an entertaining game. You have the whole farm behind you with the cornfields out there, the lore of that game. And it was a phenomenal game. There were home runs, games going back and forth. Literally, you couldn't have drawn up a better game if you're Major League Baseball trying to plan this out. All the way until the last inning, winning on the walk-off. Tim Anderson with the big home run late in that game. What a game it was. I'm really looking forward to this game again, too, this year. It's just such a great, fun event for the fans. I love it.
Gotta love MLB also bringing out the juiciest of juice balls for the Field of Dreams games last year. I think there were 19 home runs hit in that game.
Something absurd.
Which was it? Yeah, it really was. It was a fun game to watch. But I love how Major League Baseball basically, they did in the London series too. It's like, oh my God, they're scoring so many runs. I wonder why. It's like, basically playing with bouncy balls out there. But no, it was a lot of fun last year. It really stung when the Yankees lost that game after the big comeback and the home runs. I think MLB does do a pretty good job of this, though. Like we were saying, they had the London series. They're going to France. I'd love to see if they could go to the DR or something. I think that would be electric down there. If you see, that could be a real fun game. So yeah, it's all in good fun. Just something to, especially do it in the middle of August. We're in the dog days. There's, even people who are fans of your teams at this point. I'll be honest, the Yankees are on the West, in Seattle right now. And after this weekend, I'm like, I could use a couple day break from watching the Yankees. So it's just something different, something fun to watch. So yeah, looking forward to it. Gonna check it out as much as I can.
I think it's a bad job by the league to put the Cubs and the Reds as the game. I get it from a regional standpoint of where the game is played, but my gosh, can you have picked any two worse teams than the Cubs and the Reds. I mean, just
opposite of last year too.
you know what the crazy thing is though? It's gonna get the viewerships because of Field of Dreams and the aspects of it, and it is still the Cubs and the Reds who are historic franchises, no matter how terrible they might currently be. It's something I think that maybe you try to put better teams in that situation.
I mean, the regionality shouldn't matter though, because that stadium seats what? It's like 10,000 people. So
right.
Listen,
Right.
If the Dodgers played the Marlins, it would. I mean, bad case. If I don't know, the Pirates played the Marlins, it would sell out because it's not that many seats.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it would be cool next year to really. They got lucky, not lucky, but they did a good job last year getting two very good teams. Let's get that back next year. And again, can you imagine the Dodgers in like a Brooklyn Dodger uniform coming out?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like Dodgers Giants. Like
Yeah,
Dodgers-
we're
I was gonna
calling
say
out
Dodgers
as the
Giants.
Brooklyn Dodgers. I think that'd be awesome.
the Brooklyn
Dodgers
Dodgers
Giants
and the
can
New
go.
York Giants coming out. Like that would be.
Yes.
That would be
That'd be
something.
cool. It'd be cool to see.
Give me
Sox,
that game next year.
Yankees. I know it's you can do a lot with Yankees, Dodgers, Yankees, Sox. There's a lot you can do there. Some of those older teams, teams that have been around forever. Just the Braves have been around forever. You could always do something with the Braves. But that's what they should try to do. That's why I don't have a problem with it being Cubs Reds. It's just oh gosh, they are so bad.
Yeah,
they're just so bad. There's so much history with those two teams. I actually I'm weird because I'd find it if they did like a Rockies Marlins with two franchises.
Yeah, I mean they're not gonna ever do that.
Wouldn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
But I like the choice of the two teams based on legacy, but obviously the teams are bad.
I hope they do get some decent ratings this year because last year, as the game went on, I'm sure the ratings were crazy. Plus, you had two very good teams, good markets. This game, you're not going to have a lot of casuals. You're going to have, obviously Reds fans, Cubs fans, and some diehard baseball fans. So hopefully, Major League Baseball really did invest a lot into the whole stadium and the setup there. So you would hope that, if this game is a dud and it's 2-1 and it's ugly and doesn't get good ratings, that they don't bail on it for next year. We can get a really good game.
Of course. Well, let's have some fun here, though. And speaking of this game, let me ask you guys: if there is a legendary baseball player that can suit up one more time for your team right now in the heat of a pennant race, coming out of the cornfield, someone who unfortunately passed on, a legend in the game that can help your team right now, who would you choose? Let's start with John.
Okay, so I'll go first. Mine is something that the Mets probably need very much right now. They could use a little catcher help. Let's be honest. McCann and Nito, as much as I personally like both of them, they're not the greatest offensive guys. So why don't we pluck out, a little piece of history for the Mets, and let's go pluck out Gary Carter. Gary Carter was a phenomenal hitter, a great catcher, a team leader for that 86 team. You had all the guys in that clubhouse that were just total mess ups, and Gary was kind of like a leading force there. But that's a position of need right now. And if you told me that you dropped Gary Carter in the middle of the lineup, you solve the right-handed batter issue, which we were talking about earlier, Corey, and you solve your catching problem.
Yep.
So you fix two problems in one. It's almost like getting a better Wilson Contreras. So I think that you get Gary the kid, and you go see him coming through those through the corn maze, and you're gonna be very happy.
No, I love that pick. I was so close to picking Gary Carter myself because, like you said it perfectly, you solve two needs: catching, which is our weakest offensive position, and you get a righty bat. Two things the Mets need, and the kid was a huge part of that '80s Mets team. He was the captain of that team. The kid. He brought the energy, the life. Everyone loved him. So, loved the pick. I gave it a little bit of thought though, and even though starting pitching is not the Mets' need, if you're going to go against the Dodgers, if you're going to go against this Padres lineup, if you're going in the American League, you make the World Series, you're going against the Yankees lineup, you're going against the Astros, I'm going to go in there now with the best rotation in the history of baseball by taking Tom Seaver and placing him in that starting staff.
Mets in 4.
Unbelievable. You go into the divisional series where it's 3 out of 5, and you're starting out 1, 2, 3 with DeGrom, Scherzer, and now Tom Seaver as well. You got a chance for a shutout any given night with those three on the mound. And granted, I do think Carter would be a phenomenal upgrade. I almost chose Tug McGraw also, who was again, he was a sub-2 ERA reliever for the Mets. Didn't win the World Series with them, but was a part of the World Series that they lost in the early 70s. So a guy who great pitcher for the Mets and would help them in the bullpen, which is another area of massive need. But I'm going to go for the throat. I'm going right for the kill. Give me DeGrom, Scherzer, and Seaver starting in the playoffs for my team, and I want to get a shutout almost every night.
Yeah, and I'm going to follow up with an ace of my own for the Yankees' sake. Obviously, the Yanks missed out on Luis Castillo, big target for them in this trade deadline that went over to Seattle, who's pitching against the Bronx Bombers tonight, I believe, Thomas.
Castillo, no, it's that long, gangly. Was it Logan Gilbert? That's his name.
Oh, he's tonight. Whatever.
He's tonight. I think
Wow.
He's like 9 feet tall. He like throws the ball. He's like basically on on the plate when he throws it.
All right. Well, anyway, they missed out on Castillo. They bring in
Castillo's tomorrow.
Monty. I still think the Yankees needed a starting pitcher that was going to be a lockdown for them in this postseason. I'm taking Whitey Ford for this Yankees team. Whitey Ford would be the ace of this staff, obviously. This guy is Hall of Famer, just like Gary Carter and just like Tom Seaver, a career 2.75 ERA of Whitey. I'll take any year of Whitey Ford over this current Garrett Cole. Whitey Ford is my guy that I would choose for this team. Coming out of the cornfield, throwing game ones of each postseason series. Thomas, who do you have?
So my first thought was Phil Rizzuto, because IKF is horrible and he stinks. And Yankee fans, I feel like they're just brainwashed by the idea. But he's hitting 270. All he does is hit singles. He's a bad defender. He's a bad defender.
Bad defender.
He is a bad defender. Okay, he's not my pick. He's not my pick. You know where IKF ranks in outs above replacement?
I don't care.
For shortstop, 27th.
Okay.
Do you know where he ranks in fielding percentage?
Coming out of the cornfield.
You know he ranks in fielding percentage.
Question.
He ranks 20th. He's a bad defender, and he should have a lot more errors than he does.
The guy.
He stinks. The answer is Joe DiMaggio. We're gonna go with Joe DiMaggio here. Yankee Clipper. We got a switch hitter. We got a center fielder. So we also don't have to see Aaron Hicks play anymore either. Put Judge back and right. Give me DiMaggio out in center.
Aaron Hicks is DiMaggio light.
I mean, he's a switch hitter.
Oh, let me ask you a question. Why DiMaggio over the Mick?
Because I thought of him first. That's kind of why I'll be honest. I was really just kind of like thinking about how much I hate IKF, and then I was like, we'll go to DiMaggio. I know the Mick is also an all-time great. But yeah, let's bring DiMaggio back. A champion just like Mantle was. I think he'd be a good fit on this team. High average, hit power.
And you can't go wrong with DiMaggio or Mantle. I mean, you're getting two absolute legends back there. And listen, I like the DiMaggio pick. And Tom, going back to IKF, I think you're ready to send him into the cornfield.
I would send IKF. I don't want to send IKF. I want to send Yankee fans like Rich, who are brainwashed about how IKF is even like a major league caliber.
They just have it so much better at shortstop this year than they did a year ago, Tom, when there were so many question marks of what they need to do.
would you rather have paid Seager or Semien all the money that they got, or would you rather have IKF and wait until Volpe or?
I mean, Oswald Peraza should be the starting shortstop for the Yankees at this point. The fact that he's not is embarrassing.
It could be a factor, though.
Again, maybe. Like time's ticking. We just got swept by the Cardinals. IKF all he does is hit singles. Yes, he doesn't strike out a lot. Again, he's a bad defender. He is a bad defender. And I'm ready to send him into the cornfield. I'll send him into the cornfield for a corn on the cob.
But I'm saying if for this same Peraza is not ready, right? And you have IKF, what would you rather have?
I don't know how you say he's not ready. He's been hitting 300 for over 2 months.
Okay, and I feel the same way about Mark Vientos. I think he should be called up. But for whatever reason, these guys aren't getting called up. So you don't have the choice. So would you rather have IKF or would you rather have signed someone to a ton of money? I mean, what's the solution?
I mean, listen, if the Correa contract is an option when you sign it for 3 years with the opt-outs, then that's 100% the option.
He's had a terrible year.
He's been hurt also.
And Tom, I have a proposal. I know as terrible as he's been, and I know he's now a free agent. What about bringing Didi back to replace him?
I mean, if the Yankees brought Didi, and I love Didi, I think the loudest I've ever heard the new stadium is Didi's home run in the wild card game a handful of years ago. And it's in the first, and after going out with 2 in the first, it was electric. Love Didi. Would honestly just love him in the clubhouse. I think he just brings a good fun personality. He's a lefty, but no, I mean, if the Yankees are going to add another infielder, just let's see what Oswald Peraza could do. Let's see what he can do. And look, like clearly if you weren't going to trade him for a piece, or maybe other teams didn't value him as much as maybe the Yankees do, you have to give him a shot at this point. Because again, IKF is not bringing you much of anything. He really isn't. Rich, what does IKF bring? I want to know what you think he brings.
He's a better
to the
defender
team.
than what you had last year in Gleyber Torres there.
Okay, well, Gleyber Torres was all-time
Anytime
horrible.
you need a guy who gets bat on ball, he's gonna be there to do it.
Gleyber Torres is also not a shortstop, but
yeah,
right. Well,
so
I'm a fan of IKF. I like him. I don't think he's the problem for this team right now.
No, he's not. No,
listen,
I
think you got him just as advertised. I don't think
he's bad. He's not the problem.
Than what he's giving you right now.
Listen, he's not the problem. He's not the reason why the Yankees got swept in St. Louis. But there is the very easy, obvious solution in AAA, just waiting, and then you get Volpe up to AAA from there to really start helping. His maturation. I mean, Volpe needs to be in AAA next year. So Peraza either needs to get traded in the offseason or he needs to be the starting shortstop for the team next year, because Volpe has to continue to progress. He is really the prize of the Yankees farm system at this point. And I just don't know how you don't give him a chance. He can hit the ball to the wall, which is nice. Something IKF is incapable of doing. It would be very nice to see someone with just a little bit of pop. I don't need someone hitting 35 home runs as a shortstop, but I would like to know that someone can hit the ball to the wall.
So for as much flack as Correa has gotten for missing time this year, he's still played 84 games. 37 RBIs, 13 home runs, which is 13 more than IKF. He's hitting 265 with a 343 on base. So, I mean, considering he's having what we're calling a down bad year, it's still – I'm kind of with Tom on this one.
And then you also, if you put him in a lineup with Judge and with Stanton when he's there, and Rizzo when he's there, and DJ LeMahieu, he's able to be protected more, and he's going to have better numbers. And I don't remember exactly how he got hurt. He's on my one fantasy team. I know he was out for a while, but injuries are things that can nag. I mean, look at DJ LeMahieu last year. He was bad for a lot of the year, and we found out that he had a lot of injury concerns, and now that he's healthy, he looks good. So you never know if the injury even happens, if he's in a different spot. Michael K's fallacy, the predetermined outcome there. Isaiah Kiner-Phillips is bad.
All right, let's move on because I can't deal with this anymore. So make sure to follow and subscribe to everything here on ESB as we're still hanging out in the cornfield. Make sure to give us some love on Twitch, Empire State of Baseball, YouTube, subscribe, like, share, Empire State of Baseball. Follow Instagram. Guess what? At Empire State of Baseball. And, of course, on Twitter at ESB Podcast, and everybody individually that you see here. And I guess you could give Joe some love at Junior Pugs.
Junior.
All righty, let's finish things up. And speaking of Junior, he would I hate that he's missing out on this, but Tom's here to lavish in the fact that the Birds are just 7 Cubs away from putting a jersey on Mr. Junior Pugs in
listen,
just a couple weeks' time.
5-2 in Camden Yards right now over the Blue Jays. My boy Ryan Mountcastle hit a ding-dong tonight. You gotta love that. You gotta love the fight for the Birds. They said they were sellers and they weren't competing. They were just cutting. They were just like getting rid of some guys, and they wanted to bring up some young guys just to really keep up this fun atmosphere that's going on down there. Go Birds.
I mean, trading Mancini was the right move to assure that if you had no intention of re-signing the guy in the offseason, or you knew you weren't going to be able to afford him, you got to get something.
I love that they traded Mancini and then they traded what's his name, Lopez. Right. And I'm sure Junior thought, maybe the Orioles will they'll fall apart, and maybe I have a chance.
5 in a row,
and they win 5 in a row after that.
Unbelievable. I'll tell you what.
Just take a look at this.
Go
The
Birds.
Birds can lose 45 of the next 54 games, and he's still wearing a pinstripe jersey.
Unbelievable. And I'll tell you what, how awesome would it be if not only are they going to
I'm going to get Adley Rutschman's face tattooed on my ass after
But I'll tell you what, how awesome would it be if they squeak in as the third wild card
Oh
team?
God. I'm gonna really be in a tough spot if they do that, and then obviously this run continues, and then the Yankees play them in the first round. I'm gonna be really conflicted because like the Birds are like my baby. They're my baby Birds, and I've been like just praising them and showing them the love that they deserve, and it's gonna be tough.
You know what they kind of are. They're. I know everybody feels a certain type of way about the Astros, but when the Astros went on that first run originally, and they were like came out of nowhere and made the playoffs and ended up beating the Yankees that year. That's kind of what the Orioles are. It's that team that like they're young, they're up and coming, they're not there yet.
They ran it in a similar way. There's many things I know about the Astros, but the Astros get all this credit for like building up through the farm system. They essentially tanked for a decade.
Yeah.
And
but
it's
the
like,
Orioles
look how. Oh yeah, the Orioles done the same thing. But
the Orioles have done the same thing. But
I agree. I'm just saying. The Astros get all this credit for that.
However many years now that the Astros have had of winning after that, I mean, you trade that for the 3 or 4 years that they were just horrendous. I take it
wait for Rich to come back. I know there's been, because I'm very in tune with the Birds. They're saying that they're ready to spend this offseason a little bit to maybe really kind of bolster and then really make a run at the playoffs again next year. We could be looking at a Bird dynasty just in the early makings of of it.
I got so excited.
Young players too. I mean, Rutschman's kind of reminding everybody of like a Buster Posey type of leader there that can kind of take on that kind of role.
I'll tell you what,
that kind of role that Posey took for the Giants, leading them to 3 championships.
Interesting. They both wear the same colors too. Very interesting.
I'll tell you what, you got to fear the flock. That's it. Next year, fear the flock.
I think a flock of birds hit like my power wire out there, knocked me out.
I'll tell you what, there was another young team that Rich got very wrong, the Tigers. They're still terrible.
Actually, I'll tell you what, if the O's were in that division, the wasteland, that's the AL Central, the O's would be a legitimate division contender.
Oh, Tom, I don't know if you've ever heard my analogy of the AL Central, but the AL Central is basically being the tallest midget. That's all it is. You can celebrate all you want. Yay, we won the division. It's just getting knocked out by whatever AL East team is playing in the first round. So
we love midgets here. All right, let's move on to our final segment tonight. It is Guess the Graph. John gonna make his take a crack at this one for the first time live on the show. Thomas, what do you got for us tonight, man?
What do we have for us tonight? I don't know. It's for you guys to tell me. Again, I had to wait out a number here.
I guess we have to guess this one. All right. Well, you blotted out the number. So I guess it would have been an obvious. But I'll start with my question that I always ask. What is there an affiliation to the New York Yanks?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I'm gonna assume that's a J.
That's what I think.
It's not Junior Pugs.
It's not Junior Pugs. Okay.
Although if you told me this was Junior Pugs' autograph, I would believe it.
That would be something.
Because I do see like a J.
I could see a little J Pugs in there. I see it.
Yeah, I could see a bit of that.
I can.
It is not. I don't think I would waste a baseball on that bum signing it.
I think you would throw.
That's a ball that I would let my dog chew in the backyard.
So wait, are there hints that we get here, or is it just a straight?
We kind of start. I mean, we're starting. You guys are feeling it out. So this is someone who is no longer with the Yankees, but is still a current major league player.
Okay.
So
current player, just not in New York.
Current player, not New York. Trying to think, because now I'm just thinking J's and I can't think of anybody. Also, might not be a J.
It looks like a J.
It looks like a J.
It's
a J.
Seen some
I'll
give you it's a J. It's a J. I think when I tell you who it is, I think you'll be like, okay, I absolutely do see that. This is not a Nick Swisher situation.
J. Jacoby
Yeah.
Ellsbury.
It is not Jacoby Ellsbury.
How about
Good guess.
someone who was just recently traded? How about Monty?
It is not Jordan Montgomery.
Oh,
That's a
good
good
guess.
guess. That's a
Yeah.
very good guess. This is a guy, though, who was part of a, at the time, definitely a big trade deadline move for the Yankees.
At the time, big deadline move. Oh man, Jerry. Nope, he's not in the game anymore.
It's not Jerry Harrison.
Not Jerry Harrison Jr.
No. He was traded from the Yankees in this trade.
Oh,
He
okay.
might have. He actually has never played for the Yankees in the majors.
Okay. He was in
What?
the Yankees system.
He was the
Okay.
Yankees system.
Oh, I did
traded.
ask if he's affiliated with the team. I didn't.
So it was affiliate. When I acquired this autograph, I acquired it as he was wearing possibly this hat that I'm wearing right now in spring training.
Joely Rodriguez. No, I'm just
Hey,
kidding.
nah. Because again, I was gonna go with another, and he
Wet
wasn't
my ass
traded
with
with
that
that
one.
I was gonna say Jesus Montero.
Not Jesus Montero, but like you're really good on like the JMs. I will say that.
Okay, so JM. JM guys.
I have no idea. I can't think of.
Well, if he was traded from the team minor league, I'm trying to think of this big deadline years.
The trade didn't work out for the Yankees. I will say that, but it was a very big trade that they made.
I don't even know if he was in the system, but I don't think he pitched in the majors. So maybe is it Jake McGeehee?
No, and it's not a pitcher.
It does
either.
look like Jake McGee. He's like
Right?
It's a
Pretty
position.
good.
It's a position player. I have like one more clue I could give you, but I'll let you sweat just like a little bit more.
Position player.
Position player. Again, I'm looking at the chat. Hopefully, you aren't. I do not see a correct guess yet in the chat.
I'm not looking at the chat.
No correct guesses yet in the chat. I know you guys are men of integrity. Junior's not here. He'd be
no, he's not. Piece of shit.
Oh man.
Dude, this is good.
Yeah.
This is good. All right. I'm gonna ask this, and this might help a bit.
I think I
What
know
was
who
the
it is.
year this man was traded?
Well, I think we had a bit of a question before that. What was Mr. J.R. Hertz? I believe there was a J.R. Hertz guy.
I think I know who it is.
What do you think it is?
I think it's Mateo.
It is. Birdwatch continues. Jorge
my
Mateo.
God.
Okay, good guess.
Jorge Mateo.
Starting shortstop has 11 more home runs than that
Good
bum
guess.
IKF has.
He's got like 28 stolen bases too.
Yes, stolen bases. Let's see. Where's the announce above replacement compared to IKF? Might be lower. Nope, he's higher. Oh, he's 7th in outs above replacement. Oh, God, I wish we just kept Jorge Mateo and didn't trade him with James
Was he Sonny
Cotillion
Gray?
and Dexter Flower. Yes, it was a Sonny Gray trade.
Do you want a fun fact? Want a fun fact? Jorge Mateo was this close to being the fantasy pickup of the week.
Oh, that would have been huge.
Yeah,
Birdwatch would have taken over the whole episode.
Yeah, he was real close to being the pickup of the week, which is why it came into my brain that I was like, oh, Mateo. He was a
Mateo, the contributor of the 56 and 52.
Oh, yeah.
Orioles.
Mateo, I was looking at the numbers. Okay. He's red hot over the last couple of weeks. He's got I think he's hitting 350 in his last 7 games or something like that. I was looking at him because I just
the fun thing about I think I might have picked him in my one league actually because I need it because it's a categories league and I think I need some stolen bases. I actually might have Jorge Mateo in a league. Okay. It's funny about him. The number on there is I think it's number 93 because it was when he was when you're he was a top prospect for the Yankees, but in spring training, they give you numbers 93. So,
Here you go. Through 6 games in August, Mateo has gone 7 for 20 with 300, hitting 350 with 3 home runs, 2 steals, 8 RBIs, and 7 runs scored.
Oh, I would have loved to have that in this team right now.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
You still can.
And then he's just one of those guys we talked about with so long that you would just thought.
Oh man, SNY, they just had a bird watch on SNY. The
No
Ryan
way.
Mountcastle home
Oh,
run.
lawsuit's coming, baby.
Oh,
Lawsuit
boy.
is coming.
I mean, they didn't say bird watch, but Ryan Mountcastle hit the ball over that stupid wall they have in left field now.
So
Oh,
does
man.
Joe have to wear the Yankee jersey for the rest of the year, or just 1 week?
I mean, listen. If
I think you should
Junior
wear
wore,
it every episode.
I mean, listen. If Junior wore it for that long, they couldn't have enough dry cleaning to get the stink off of it. You'd have to burn the thing, which I don't think any of us want to do.
You
I
should,
think that should have been the part of the
try to
thing,
convince
you
him
know?
into a double or nothing. Orioles have to have like 80 games, or
I tried to give him a double or
be a
nothing.
postseason team.
I tried
or
to give him a
wild
double
card
or nothing,
contending
and
team,
he was
and he has to wear the
afraid.
jersey for the rest of the season.
I think I tried
Yeah.
double or nothing. I tried to give him a Yankee hat, and he was just terrified.
He was
Terrified of the birds.
I
He was
I
like, "I wear a
think
Patriot hat." Oh well. All righty, guys.
I'm one for always humiliating Joe. So if it means that he has to wear it the rest of the year through the end of the season, whatever it is, I'm in. Sign me up.
All right,
Oh,
so we
boy.
might see a possible double or nothing bet on the show. We'll talk next week when Joe does rejoin us. Unfortunately, John will not be with us on the show, but we appreciate you jumping on the show with us, man. Thanks for filling in for Joe. You did one hell of a job today, man.
Thank you guys. I hope I can do it again, but I had a lot of fun. So
All right, well, we'll
You know-
talk to you in
you
2
know,
weeks
I
on
love
the
talking
next
baseball,
Fantasy Hot
so.
Corner. My man, awesome. We will talk to you in a few weeks on the Fantasy Hot Corner once again, but until then, we'll see you all here next Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on Twitch. As always, Corey, John, Tom, any additional love you want to send out to our faithful here on Twitch?
I want to thank John for joining us today. I want to thank Rich and Tom for another week as usual. And the Chooches in the chat, very active tonight. Love the participation. Thank you, everyone. I love you all.
Thomas?
I want to thank the Yankees for playing in Seattle, so I don't have to watch them for 3 days. I need a cleansing after those games in St. Louis, and then I'll come back, fresh, ready to go. I'm kind of yelling myself for 3 games here, and we'll be back because it's way past my bedtime.
Thomas
staying
is
for
going to
those
bed
West
early
Coast
tonight.
games.
John, anybody you want to shout out?
shout out to my lovely girlfriend in the chat, Lex in the chat.
Yeah.
You're showing love to Corey too. So
We love the support. Thank you all. We love you all. We'll see you here next week. Take care.